Stop running down the meh and mundane hallways of life and tap into the magical. My name is Michelle Shutter. I am a life and leadership coach for women and host of the Life Coaching Classroom podcast. I'd like to welcome you to Life Coaching Classroom, where we walk with you in the hallways of life so you can align to the beautiful expansiveness of your true self through reconnection, reinvention, and rejuvenation. I'm so glad you're here. Welcome to class. Welcome back to episode 61 on the Life Coaching Classroom podcast. My name is Michelle Shutter, your host of this podcast and the creator of Life Coaching Classroom. I am a life and leadership coach for women. And if you haven't yet checked out the website, lifecoachingclassroom.com, you're going to want to head there because there's some great tools and resources that will support you on your self-discovery journey. And so if you are a first-time listener, welcome. If you are back here, either listening or watching on the video podcast on YouTube, again, welcome to you as well. Anytime you invest in yourself and carve out some time to really do a deeper level or a deeper discovery into yourself and transformation, like everybody benefits from it, not just you. And the Life Coaching Classroom is where we really study 6 different components, 6 different units, essentially. It's health, healing, heart, harmony, happiness, and humanity in no particular order. And many times, well, actually all the time, they overlap in some way, shape, or form. And it is through this curriculum that allows us to reinvent ourselves in some way, because we cannot be the same person and seek something better for ourselves. We have to change. We have to reinvent ourselves in some way. And this process allows women just like you to really reignite that fire within, regardless of your age. So many times we get to a certain age and we think, I can't do this, or I'm not cut out for this, or this isn't me, right? All that self-doubt seems to surface. And I'm here to tell you, it is for you. You are in the right place at the right time. And for you to want to do something better for yourself really shows your investment and commitment to yourself. So today, as we dive in, we're going to talk about episode 61 is called Resisting Change. And based on numerology, 2023 is going to be a year of change. It has a lot of unknown variables within it, and that can be really unsettling for many of us. We want that security, right? We want that certainty. Year 2023 is going to be uncharted in terms of, we're going to be walking in uncharted territory, just not really knowing, not having that step-by-step process. It's going to require us to have a leap of faith, to try new things, to get out of our comfort zone. And when we do all that, guess what shows up? Resistance. Resistance is inevitably going to show up through this. And why does it show up? Because our mind, the mission of the mind is twofold. It is either to keep us safe, keep us secure, alive, or it's going to seek pleasure. When we are moving into a different territory that is unfamiliar to us, that is out of our comfort zone, what's going to kick in? That safety measure of our mind to hold true to its mission of keeping us safe, keeping us secure. You can think of the brain, the logical brain, as like the computer, and the mind is the software running it. And the mind is going to do anything it can to avoid change. That uncharted territory just doesn't feel right. It feels like, you're going to experience death in some way, but it does that because it seeks certainty. It wants certainty at such a deep level. And one of the biggest fears that we have is when we are not certain with something, that creates all this emotion around fear and uncertainty. So what I want you to think about is, how can we truly evolve and expand and really squeeze the juiciness out of life if we don't change in some way? Change is the only way. It's the only constant in life, in a sense, right? Change is the only way to thoroughly experience expansiveness, to evolve, to really tap into that greater good. Now, I'm not here to tell you that this is something that you must do. That is like a self-discovery decision that, yes, I want to grow. I want to evolve. And it takes work. It doesn't happen overnight. And yet at the same time, if you're good with that feeling of meh and mundane and the mediocre, like that is fine too, right? There's no judgment around this. It's neither good nor bad. It really is what works best for you. However, if you are listening to this podcast or watching this, I can pretty much guarantee you that there is something inside you that seeks something different, that seeks that expansion, that pulling back of the layer to really evolve and grow. And that it's that piece that really seeks more out of life because you felt the nudge, you felt the impulse, you felt the calling in a sense. And yet, no matter what you do, it doesn't go away. It always resurfaces somehow. You can try and push it away. You can try and push it into a closet, but over time, it still comes back and it is resurfacing and it's calling you to step into something bigger. And when we want to step into something bigger, like it's scary, right? It's the unknown. And I want you to know, like, it's okay because we all feel that way. It isn't exclusive just to you. The unknown is scary. But if we don't move past the resistance that shows up, we are left with what if? We are left a lot of times with regret. We are left with that self beatdown that we give ourselves. And we're left with the mundane that really doesn't give us meaning, doesn't give us fulfillment, doesn't give us purpose. So what I want to do is I want to share 3 different ways for you to like get ahead of the resistance, to move through the resistance. And these 3 ways are not anything like extravagant or something that you can't implement today. Like all of these, you can start to implement today to really set yourself up for the changes that are coming in 2023. So the first one is you must get really clear on what you want versus what you don't want. And that can be as simple as taking out a piece of paper, drawing a line right through the middle, on one side writing what you want, and on the other side writing what you don't want. And I want you to be aware of what flows to you faster. Is it the want side or is it the don't want side? And contrast exists so that we can identify what we want, right? However, if everything is flowing in the don't want side so quickly, you have to recognize that that's where your attention is going. Your attention and your focus, even if you're not consciously aware of it, it's going to what you don't want. And I want to share a little example with you. When I was a teacher and I taught 2nd grade, I did this with kids to identify rules of the classroom. And you may have heard me talk about this before, but it just was so powerful because even as little 7 and 8-year-olds, they struggled with this. So it was like, let's develop classroom rules and let's do it together. And my question was always, what should we do? And they couldn't do it. They struggled with that. Don't hit. Don't run in the hallway. Don't do this. Don't do that. Don't be mean. Don't yell at your friends. And I kept saying, what should you do? And again, they would come back, don't do this. Don't do that. Don't do this. Don't do that. I'm like, no, what should you do? Were very challenged to think about what should we do? What do you want? Right? They were so focused on the opposite. So finally it was like, okay, you just told me don't run in the hall. What should you do? What is the opposite? Walk. Okay, that's where our focus is going to be. We're going to walk in the hall. That's what we're going to do. So when you are going through this and identifying what you want versus what you don't want, be conscious of where your focus is going. Okay? Because that is revealing all in and of itself. If we are always focused on what we don't want, that essentially is the lack of what we want. It's no wonder that resistance is showing up sometimes so very strongly. Once you identify what you want versus what you don't want, like the wants should feel good, even if they feel like out of reach in some way, or perhaps it's just something that's been on your heart and you would love to do it and yet you don't know how, but you know if you achieved it, oh, it just would feel so good. So sink into those feelings of how good it feels to look at that want side. Okay, so number one is getting really clear on what you want versus what you don't want. The second way to really get ahead of resistance or move through resistance is just stop asking the low vibe questions. So once you've identified what you want versus what you don't want, don't allow the questions of like, when is it going to happen? How long is it going to take? Where's it going to come from? Like these are like frantic questions that start to creep up that again, just create more resistance. When that resistance shows up, okay, so the resistance shows up in that space of where you are between where you are and where you want to go, right? It's that space, and that's where resistance is the strongest. Those kind of frantic questions just create unbalanced parts of you. So instead of focusing on the low vibe questions that really keep you frantic, keep you unbalanced, have that like nervous energy running in you, switch to the high vibe in terms of focus on how you're feeling or how you would feel when you receive what you want, when you receive one of those goals, one of those desires. Let the ease, the fun, like just allow yourself to feel good. Go back into the imagination of a little child. Be the dreamer of a little child, right? Think about their imaginary play and just take on those principles when you are in this moment. Allow yourself to feel good. And when that low vibe starts to creep in, because it will, and those questions start to come back up, because they will, just acknowledge them again and then move into feeling good. It doesn't mean that you have to go from feeling like crap to feeling like ultimate bliss, right? Like that's a big leap, but just move up that ladder of feeling good one step. What would it take for you to feel one step better? Feel into that feeling. And when that feels good and that feels like, hey, I got a handle on this, move up the ladder, move up the step again. Okay, so far we have get really clear on what you want versus what you don't want. The second thing is stop asking those low vibe questions. And the third thing is really to create awareness around your thoughts, because you have to reinvent your thoughts in some way in order to interact with resistance in a way that serves you. Now, that's going to sound really strange, right? Like, why would I want to interact with resistance? I want it to go away. Well, here's the thing. Resistance is not going to go away 100% of the time, all the time. It could happen. However, let's learn to coexist with resistance because we know it's going to show up. Let's get really clear on our thoughts. And a great way to do that is to use what I call the magic of reinvention wheel. And if you want a copy of that, just head on over to lifecoachingclassroom.com/library. And when you scroll down, I believe it's the first one, the first tool there for you. That is the magic of reinvention wheel that you can download. And Use that tool to create awareness around your thoughts, your feelings, your actions, your results when it comes to resistance, when you're in that mode, when you want to go back into asking those low vibe questions. Use a tool to support you. And tools, there's a lot of tools on my website, but use the tools, like fill your backpack with these, because when you're in a situation where you're like, I'm not sure what I'm going to do here, like pull out a tool and use it. So again, 3 different ways to get ahead of resistance or move through resistance when it happens. 1, get really clear on what you want versus what you don't want. 2, stop asking the low vibe questions. And number 3, create awareness of your thoughts to really reinvent that interaction with resistance. Now, you might be thinking, well, yeah, like this is all easier said than done. Like, I get it. I get it. And, I've experienced plenty of resistance in my life, and I still experience it. And this new vision that came to me was also full of resistance, but it was an idea that came to me and it came from my heart. And I know that when we create something from our heart, the resistance begins to melt away. And when we think about it a lot and our thoughts are aligned with it and we take action on it, things begin to manifest in a different way that we just don't even realize. And sometimes a lot of times, which we don't even realize, we need support around these different aspects of self-discovery, of self-transformation. And so what I've done is I've always wanted to create something where I could support more than just a handful or 2 handfuls of women at a time, because I know the value of life coaching. I know the impact and the difference that coaching makes in our lives. And I know that that whole process of self-discovery and being on that journey and self-transformation doesn't happen overnight. And I know it can get overwhelming and lonely in a sense, because you begin to self-doubt yourself of like, why isn't this happening? What am I doing wrong? But yet, what I realized is when I can create something that really supports women in embracing the opportunities and transitions and challenges and really reconnects them to their true self, magic begins to happen. And when that magic happens, it's the rippling effect that goes out, not only obviously starts with their self, but also goes through their family and their coworkers and their friends. And it just has a rippling effect. And what I want to extend an invitation to you is that this work is your journey, but it wasn't meant to do this alone, right? Having that support, surrounding yourself with like-minded people, like-minded women just makes a significant difference. So I want to invite you to the beautiful online classroom that I created, where women just like you can walk down the journey of self-discovery and just move beyond the meh, the mundane, the mediocrity, and really tap into the magical that each and every one of us is supposed to experience in this game of life, right? So I want to ask you, would you be opposed to adding more fulfillment, more meaning, more purpose in 2023? Because as I mentioned in this podcast, it's going to be change, right? And there's going to be resistance. So how do we move through that in a supported way and still make the most out of 2023 so that it brings us that fulfillment, that meaning, that purpose? And so if you're not opposed to it, I invite you to be a first-class member in the life coaching classroom, because yes, it's still in the early elementary stages, but you're going to definitely want to be involved, because you can be part of this collective by offering your insights and your wisdom. And here's the really great thing, like as a first-class member, you get to lock into a special rate that will never change for you as long as you stay part of the classroom. If the prices go up, which I know they will, your rate, your locked-in rate will always remain the same. So if you're looking to really expand yourself and really have support in this next year where, yep, it's about change. It's about really expanding our boundaries. It's really about stretching ourselves and getting out of our comfort zone. Then I invite you to reach out to me. You can send me a direct message. You can email me at hello@lifecoachingclassroom.com, because I am here to let you know that the Life Coaching Classroom is for you. It is for you to experience fulfillment and meaning and purpose. And there's so many more details that I want to share with you, but let's do that in a way that through that message, through that email, because I guarantee you the change that you will see in 2023 by being part of the Life Coaching Classroom is going to blow your socks away. It is going to be absolutely amazing. So I hope you got value from this episode 61, where, resisting change, 3 ways for you to move through that resistance, to get ahead of it, because it's never going to go away. So let's coexist with it. And if you have any questions on this and want more details on the Life Coaching Classroom so that you can be a first class member, make sure you direct message me or email me at hello@lifecoachingclassroom.com. I would be honored if you would share this episode or take a minute to leave a review if you're listening to it on Apple, on iTunes there. That just helps us get this message out to more women that are looking to really make a change here in 2023 and beyond. So I can't wait to see you in class. I hope you have an amazing day. And until next time, see you soon. Have you joined our monthly unit study? If not, you better head on over and reserve your seat at lifecoachingclassroom.com/unit. The unit study gives you an opportunity to experience life coaching at no charge. Again, register and get all the details at lifecoachingclassroom.com/unit. I do have a favor. Could you take a moment to share this podcast and Life Coaching Classroom with your besties? Perhaps they too are tired of running down the meh and mundane hallways of life. Let's give them a little spark in their day. Finally, I'd be so grateful if you take a minute to review the podcast. The reviews definitely help to spread the podcast to more women. Thank you. I so appreciate you, and I will see you in class.